In Violet's entire life, she'd never heard anyone spout so much nonsense as this man was spewing. Had Harrison taken something before class? Was that what was in his coffee? And yeah, a Lunaris teacher would probably be capable of it. After all, teacher-student relationships were supposedly encouraged here, so taking something shouldn't make any difference. Harrison went on and on about how werewolves weren't just the first inhabitants of Earth, but also the true predecessors of human evolution. Violet noticed the werewolf students didn't seem bothered by this propaganda. If anything, they looked smug. Of course, the teacher was on their side. Why wouldn't they like it? This was straight-up discrimination, and Violet could feel the tension among the human students. Harrison himself was totally oblivious to the unease in the room, which felt like a mix of gasoline and a lit match. He continued, "The concept of human evolution, as you know it, is basically made up. Pure-blooded werewolves were the first beings, blessed with strength, resilience, and intelligence. Humans came later as an offshoot, weaker and less capable." A human student at the back couldn't take it anymore and raised his hand. "And what is it?" Harrison asked. "Dion." "How can I help you, Dion?" Harrison asked, his lips a thin line. He clearly didn't appreciate the interruption. "Is this even in our curriculum?" Dion asked. The whole class burst out laughing, including Violet. She wasn't a robot after all. She'd been waiting for someone to call the teacher out, and now that Dion had mocked his lecture, she was pleased. Unfortunately, Harrison looked like someone had just spit in his face. His expression was scary. Harrison started walking toward Dion, and with each step, it felt like he was sucking the air out of the room. He finally stopped in front of Dion, and Violet had to give Dion credit. He didn't flinch. He stood tall. Harrison's expression was ice cold. "This class, Dion, isn't for speculative debate. It's a study of werewolf heritage, culture, and legacy, one that's deeply rooted in fact, even if some humans would prefer to believe otherwise." He glanced around the room, daring anyone else to challenge him. "And the fact that you asked that question means you haven't studied properly or you intended to rile me on purpose." He finished with, 10 points from you." "Man," Dion groaned. "It was just a question, sir." "Another 10 points deducted," Harrison declared. Dion slumped back in his seat, sulking, while Mr. Harrison turned to leave. Violet turned to Alice. "Can points be transferred?" "Obviously. How do you think you've been climbing up the ranks so quickly?" "Oh!" The realization hit Violet. Initially, she'd wanted to compensate Dion for standing up for what he believed in, but a slightly devious thought crept into her mind. What if she transferred all her points away? You know, like philanthropists give away their wealth. That would be like contributing to society. Or in this case, Lunaris, right? But Alice seemed to catch on instinctively, shooting her a warning look as if she'd read her mind. "Don't even think about it." Violet smiled sheepishly, but the idea had already taken root. "Is there a problem here, Miss Violet?" "Oh, shoot." Violet swallowed when she looked up to see Mr. Harrison standing right in front of her. Judging by his arched eyebrow and cold stare, she bet he'd overheard her talking about transferring points to Dion and assumed she was challenging his authority. "No, sir." The automatic response was on Violet's lips, but then her expression furrowed. She wasn't going to let this man bully her like the others. "Actually, sir, I do have a problem, and it's with your theory." Mr. Harrison was taken aback, clearly not expecting that. Even her classmates straightened up, tension filling the room. Violet swore she saw someone pulling out their phone. "And what exactly is the problem, Violet?" His words dripped with sarcasm. Violet had no doubt that Harrison knew about her circumstances at Lunaris and didn't approve. In his mind, she probably wasn't worthy enough for Alpha Asher. If only he knew she didn't want his attention either. Violet cut straight to the point. If werewolves were truly the pioneers of evolution, then why didn't they dominate the Earth like humans? Humans have always been resilient, adaptable creatures capable of extraordinary feats. From my perspective, it seems more plausible that at some point, a human might have surpassed their natural limits and developed the ability to shift into wolves. Through reproduction, that trait could have been passed on, spreading the gene responsible for it. She continued, or maybe the moon goddess decided to bless some random human for a noble act, giving rise to werewolves. But let's be real. If neither of those scenarios fits, I'd bet my money they were cooked up in some lab experiment gone wrong. Her words hung in the air, bold and unapologetic. For a moment, the classroom was drenched in stunned silence. Fury contorted Harrison's face, his features darkening with rage. As if that wasn't enough, snarls and snapping jaws sounded around her. Violet's stomach churned as she realized the noise was coming from her werewolf classmates. Violet gulped, her bravado fading fast. In her rush to challenge Mr. Harrison's story, she'd accidentally ticked off not just him, but like a whole race of werewolves. They looked ready to jump out of their chairs and rip her apart, their eyes burning with fury. If it weren't for the other kids in the room, Violet was pretty sure they would have shredded her right there. Great, just great. Make enemies with an entire species. Just what she needed. Mr. Harrison docked Violet 100 points for her blatant disrespect of werewolves. Violet wasn't even fazed. She checked her ranking. The deduction was a drop in the bucket. But then it hit her. Had she been played by the principal? Principal Jameson had supposedly taken 500 points from Griffin for attacking her, but now Violet realized Griffin probably hadn't even noticed. Not with his massive point total. The woman had totally fooled her, and the realization made Violet's blood boil. She clenched her fists, wanting to confront Jameson right then and there, but she couldn't focus on that now. She had bigger problems. She just made enemies with the entire werewolf population. With no clue whether she had any protection from their revenge, Violet decided not to risk it. The second the bell rang, she bolted. She didn't stop for anything or anyone, just focused on putting as much space as possible between herself and potential werewolf wrath. "Hey, wait up!" someone yelled. Violet glanced back and saw Dion running after her. "Hey," Dion said, breathing hard as he caught up. "Hey," Violet replied, just as Alice popped up beside her. Dion turned to Violet. "I wanted to thank you for back there. You know, sticking up for me. Though you might want to dial back the sarcasm a bit. Werewolves are really sensitive about their heritage." "Whoa, hold on," Violet shot back. "I didn't do that for you," she added, dripping with sarcasm. "Werewolves can dish it out, but they can't take it. I'm just saying, don't provoke the wrong people or make them think you're prejudiced against werewolves. Basically, be careful around here," Dion advised. "Don't worry," Alice chirped, throwing her arm around Violet like they were BFFs. "I'll keep an eye on her and make sure she stays out of trouble." She was really committed to this self-appointed bodyguard gig. "Good." Dion smiled warmly at them. "And you know what? Come have lunch with us," Alice offered, not missing a beat. "Alice!" Violet's voice was sharp. "What? We're just making friends. There's no we here. This is all you. And if I remember right, you told me the top 20 don't hang out with the lower ranks." "Yeah, they don't hang out with them, but they can invite them," Alice said, completely unbothered. "What's the difference?" She threw her hands up in exasperation. "What was with these people?" Alice plowed on, undeterred. "The difference is they can't eat with you, but you can give them a taste of what it's like to eat with the elites. A taste that tons of people crave. I'm done with you guys. It was nice meeting you, Dion, but I'm off to my next class." She turned and walked away, relieved that Alice didn't have the same class. Otherwise, she'd totally lose it. "Meet you during PE!" Alice shouted after her, but Violet ignored her. Violet was kinda naive and thought the werewolves had just let her comments slide. Nope. As she walked through the halls to her next class, every werewolf she passed gave her low growls and dirty looks. Their eyes were full of menace, and it hit Violet that news had spread like wildfire. Thinking about that, Violet finally found her advanced biology classroom and went inside. The room was buzzing with chatter as students talked with their friends. Only a few people even noticed her, and they didn't pay her much attention. It felt great not to be stared at like she was from another planet. The students here were serious about their studies. The seats were filling up fast. Violet spotted an empty one near a window and hurried over to grab it before anyone else could. Little did she know, nobody ever sat there. Violet wasn't alone, though. A student was already sitting next to her, his head down on the desk right by the window. He must be a werewolf, Violet thought. She noticed his ears twitch when she sat down. Then he lifted his head. Violet forgot how to breathe. It was him, Alaric, the Cardinal Alpha of the North. The same Alpha she'd met in the infirmary when she'd gotten patched up, the one with the lightning powers. Violet couldn't look away, totally captivated by his electric blue eyes. She could almost see lightning dancing in them, wild, powerful, and untamed eyes. Even the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. She'd never felt such an intense attraction to anyone before, which is probably why it stung so much when Alaric narrowed his eyes and broke their gaze. Without a word, he turned toward the window and went back to sleep. Violet tried not to let his coldness bother her, but she couldn't shake the hollow feeling in her chest.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.